fine greetings from the cold Pine Barrens of southern New Jersey. Welcome to Far Out Radio with Scott Teeters. I'm Scott, and today is Tuesday, January the 22nd, 2013. It was a beautiful day here in the Pines. It was sunny with azure blue skies, puffy clouds, a good breeze, and the temperature never got over 14. We like to say here in New Jersey, if you can live here, you can live anywhere, because we get it all here. Lucky us. Our topic tonight is an amazing health drink that is fall off a log simple and inexpensive to make. It's called kombucha. Our guest is author and educator Hannah Crum. Hannah goes by the nickname of the Kombucha Mama. I just love that. And she's with us tonight to talk about all things kombucha. Before we bring Hannah on, we want to let our listeners know that we're going to open up the phone lines after the first break. So if you'd like to ask Hannah a question about kombucha, give us a call at 1-877-342-6673. Again, that number is 1-877-342-6673. I discovered kombucha in June of 2012, late one night while I was poking about the health section at Rents.com. I found an article that was titled, "Is Kombucha a Health Drink?" Now, I've been into health and diet-related issues for a long, long time, and when I saw the article, I said, kombucha? What is that? Well, the article went on to explain that kombucha is a fermented sweet tea, and in the fermentation process, it creates probiotics. Well, since my wife has had long-term digestive issues, this certainly had my attention. So we bought a few bottles of store-bought kombucha tea, and I told Karen that if she likes the drink, I've read and heard that it's very, very easy to make, and if it agrees with her, I'll start to make it for her. So after some quick online research, I found Hannah Crum's website, and by early August, we had our first batch of kombucha, and we've been booching ever since. Hannah's website is fun. It's called kombuchacamp.com. Let me spell that out for you because it's a little bit unusual. It's kombucha camp, Kombucha camp, K-A-M-P. That's kombuchacamp.com. The site is loaded with how-to articles, recipes, videos, plus Hannah sells everything you need to successfully brew your own kombucha tea. So, again, before we bring Hannah on, we want to let the listeners know, if you'd like to call us up and ask Hannah a question about kombucha, give us a call at 1-877-342-6673. So, Hannah, are you there? Welcome to the program.
Hi, Scott. Thanks for having me on tonight.
Oh, you're quite welcome. Do you have a tall, cold glass of kombucha there with you?
You know I do. Tonight it's Rise and Shine. This is a new flavor I've been doing because the cold season. It's turmeric, ginger, and bee pollen.
Ooh. I hadn't thought about putting turmeric in my...
Well, it's very anti-inflammatory because both the ginger and turmeric are anti-inflammatory, and then the bee pollen has just a little extra zip to it. It's got kind of a citrusy flavor.
Huh. Wow. Well, we're going to get into the flavoring of kombucha and all that fun stuff. Hannah, let's start at the beginning for you. How did you find kombucha, or how did kombucha find you?
I think the second way you asked that is exactly right. Kombucha found me. I had never heard of kombucha. If you'd asked me when I was a kid, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? I never would have said the kombucha mama because I had no idea what it was. But I was visiting some friends from college in San Francisco and got a nice tour of their apartment. And one of the stops on the tour in their place was this box filled with mysterious jars all covered with cloth covers. And I was like, what is that? I said, that's kombucha. And I had never heard the word. Like you, I did the same kombu what? And was very intrigued by it. So when I returned to Los Angeles, I went to the store and grabbed a bottle, and for me it was love at first sip. Now, I have a true confession. I was the sort of girl who would sneak the pickle juice out of the pickle jar when Mom wasn't looking, and if she ever caught me, she'd yell at me. So I think I already had a predilection to these
drinking pickle juice, huh?
Caught with my hand in the pickle jar. So I think I always liked kind of that sour, bitter type flavor. So for me, I really loved it, and I felt great. I heard your story, and you mentioned your wife had digestive issues. I didn't have a specific health concern that I was addressing, but I definitely feel that consuming kombucha over time has certainly improved my health in many ways, and it really resonated with me and vibrated with me, and I just was making it at home, made it for a long time. My husband didn't even really care for it until I got better at it and made a flavor he liked. But it just kind of grew from there. I was really, part of what it was is I was frustrated by the lack of great information out there about it. You do kind of a cursory search for kombucha. You find the Mayo Clinic or some of these other sites where they're like, oh, we don't know about this stuff, don't trust it. That to me was a little frustrating. So that's why I wanted to put good quality information out there. And like you said, the site is full of articles and tips. You have a great recipe you can download, and there's just lots of good stuff there.
Now, how long ago was it that you discovered kombucha? About approximately when?
It's been almost 10 years.
Oh, 10 years ago.
A long time ago. And to me, I'm a baby, really, because I talk to people who are like, oh, I did this in the 80s, I did this in the 90s. So, it's been kind of hanging around the edges of our collective consciousness. And what I'm really excited about is how much it's starting to burble up, how much people are, they're hearing the word, or they're finding it at their local store, or they're giving it a try. Because, Scott, I think people are sick of being sick. And so when they find
they
something,
really are.
A great substitute for soda. It's got the bubbles, it's got flavors, it's fun, and not the same type of sugar content that's really exciting for them. And then, as you know from drinking it, you start to feel the benefits or how it helps support your organism. It's something you want to continue to drink over time.
Well, I'm a pretty hearty guy, and I, aside from the miscellaneous little aches and pains that go along with getting older, I didn't really have any health issues, but Karen was the one that I was concerned most about. And when I read that this was, you're making your own probiotic, I already knew what probiotics were and the benefits of that. But it always seemed to me like when you go to the health store and you buy a box of probiotics, they're rather pricey. It's always about $40 or so for a box. And I had seen so many different kinds of probiotics for sale. And if you read the literature or the advertising on them, they're all the best. They all basically make the same kinds of claims, wordsmithed in different ways about the super high quality of their probiotics and a lot of technical information that frankly just goes right over my head, and leaves you with a, well, all right, if you say so, kind of a thing. And when you take the probiotics, I guess unless you're really in trouble, it's one of those kinds of things where you take it, but you don't really feel anything, especially if you don't, like me, you don't have any urgent problems. But when I was doing the research on the health benefits of drinking kombucha, several of the things that I found stressed the fact that you really won't start to get the health benefits of drinking the kombucha until you've been drinking it for several months, actually. And that's exactly what Karen's experience was.
Yeah, well, you raise a really valid point here, and that's about the probiotics. When you're buying it as a supplement, it's not necessarily in a living form, right? They can't even quantify how many actually make it through your digestive tract into your body. Oftentimes, it's an unknown quantity. And the great thing about kombucha and all the other fermented drinks, kvass, kefir, why do they all start with K? I don't know. Kraut, which isn't a drink, kimchi, all of these fermented foods, is they have probiotics in a living form that our bodies can actually use instantly, right? They are from nature. They're traditional foods that we evolved to consume over hundreds, if not thousands of years. And so when we consume them in that living form, our body instantly knows what to do with it. Right. And that's really the difference between buying just something off the shelf. But I would love to hear how did the kombucha benefit Kieran?
We can get into that a little bit after we come back from our break. There's our music. And also when we come back from our break, let's explain to our listeners how you make kombucha and what it is that you need in order to brew kombucha. So anyhow, we're going to let Hugo Winterhaller take us into the commercial break with his 1956 classic, Canadian Sunset. You're listening to Far Out Radio on the Rents Radio Network. And welcome back to Far Out Radio with Scott Teeters. I'm Scott, and tonight our special guest is kombucha expert Hannah Crum. And, of course, that song there was the theme song from the 1965 James Bond movie Thunderball. And, you know, for a piece of music that has got a full orchestra, it really rocks with that electric guitar and that wailing trumpet. It's really very cool. Anyway, before we went into our commercial break, Hannah asked a very good question about my wife Karen's experience with kombucha. Now, she sort of had this spell, breakdown, whatever you want to call it, back in May and into June when I discovered the kombucha. She also discovered from doing online research that she probably has celiac disease, or the condition of celiac problem. So, and basically the only thing that you can do for that is to completely and totally avoid all products with wheat gluten. So she started to remove all of the wheat gluten products from our diet. It all went out the door at about the same time that we started to brew and drink kombucha. So we were doing both things at the same time. It's a little hard to say, what part of the benefit was the kombucha and what part was the elimination of the wheat gluten. But the overall effect for her has been a dramatic increase in her vitality. So we're both very, very happy with the kombucha, and we like to drink it too. We've really grown to love it a lot. So anyway, Hannah, before we took off on our break, I mentioned that we should explain to our listeners, how do you make kombucha? Kombucha Mama?
Fantastic question. It's super easy. If you can make a cup of tea, you can make kombucha, because basically that's what it is. It's fermented tea. Now, as you know, Scott, there are other factors that play into it, but basically what we do, and typically we're doing a gallon batch, or we might do a larger size batch in a continuous brew type setting. That tends to be more like a 2.5 gallon container or larger. But in a typical batch brew, a gallon size, which is what a lot of people start with until they kind of get the hang of it and feel ready to, quote-unquote, graduate to the continuous brewer, is basically we make a pot of sweet tea. So we brew up our tea, we add a cup of sugar per gallon, and a lot of the measurements for kombucha, people may not know this, but the recipe itself comes from research that was done around the turn of the century, the 20th century, that is, by Russian and German scientists who were studying kombucha and its health benefits. A lot of that study kind of went away at World War II, but that's where we get these measurements for how much tea and how much sugar. So it's 3 to 5 bags of tea, or 3 to 5 teaspoons of loose leaf tea, and 1 cup of sugar per gallon batch. And then we have our starter culture and at least 1 cup of our starter liquid, which is kombucha from a previous batch, basically. Once we have all of those supplies assembled, we cover them. We make the tea in our vessel. We add our sugar, stir it in, add our culture, and cover it with a cloth cover. And that's because our fermentation process is both aerobic, meaning with air, and anaerobic, without. So the culture starts getting to work, and it can sink or it can float. It can live anywhere in the jar. I often have people write in and say, "Oh, it sank to the bottom. Is it dead?" No, it's not dead. It's just feeling out it's the different areas in the jar. But the new layer will always grow across the top, and there's a reason for that. So the culture itself, the name we have for it is called a SCOBY, which is an acronym for, you tell me, Scott.
Oh, it's a symbiotic colony of beneficial yeast. Bingo.
Very close, yeah. Symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast. No, that was really good. The yeast are beneficial, but the B is for our bacteria because that's what builds our cellulose structure. So the SCOBY itself looks kind of like a mothership or a mushroom cap. It's been referred to as a mushroom, but it's not technically a mushroom. But that layer grows because it acts as a defense mechanism. So it creates a lid to prevent evaporation because the kombucha doesn't know when you're coming back to feed it some more, so it wants to thrive for as long as possible. And also to create a seal so that that anaerobic process can occur below. Now, there are two other important defense mechanisms of the kombucha itself. It's at a pH of 3.2 and lower. So that's a very acid pH, and that acid pH prevents the growth of harmful microorganisms. And this is why kombucha has been made at homes and passed down from generation to generation so easily, is because it can thrive in all kinds of environments. And that low pH protects the cultures from invasion by harmful microorganisms, but also then when you use it as a cleaning fluid, like let's say it gets too sour and you don't want to drink it, it'll kill something like an E. coli or a salmonella on contact. It's that powerful when it comes to antimicrobial. And then the SCOBY itself is like a lid so that if, yeast or bacteria are flying around in the air, they can't get into the liquid. So it's a really safe and easy to make. You yourself have made it, and as you've observed, with every batch, you get a new culture. So it literally will provide you a lifetime supply from one culture.
I got to tell you, that SCOBY, when you take it out of the vessel, that's a funky-looking thing. It really is. It looks like I'm going to drink something that's been in. Are you kidding me? Don't show it to your friends. Would you like to have some of it?
It is funky looking for sure. And it's funny because when I got my first culture, I sent a friend of mine to go pick it up because she lived closer to where it was located, and she had no idea what she was getting. And when she brought it to me, she's like, "Oh my gosh, what is this thing? It's so horrible." I think it looks kind of like a jellyfish.
Yep.
I also think it looks like the full moon, especially when you brew in a circular vessel. So that's the cool thing is it grows to the shape of the vessel. So if you do in a square vessel, you'll end up with square SCOBYs, and so it's just really fun.
Yeah, it just grows and grows and grows. It's I've been brewing now continuously since the beginning of August, and I've got a SCOBY hotel where I'm storing some of these things, and I'm not quite sure what to do with the other ones that I have here, but we can talk about that when we get back. There's our music again, Hannah, which means it's time for a break. This is Jan Hammer's Crockett's theme from the 1980s TV show Miami Vice. We invite you to stop by Kombucha Mama's website at kombuchacamp.com. Everything you need to get started. This amazing health drink is there. Supplies, information, how-to videos, whatever you need for your booch. Hannah's got it. You're listening to Far Out Radio on the Rents Radio Network. We'll be back. And welcome back to Far Out Radio. That, of course, is Led Zeppelin's Moby Dick. It's not a traditional whaling song, but it is definitely a classic progressive rock song, that's for sure, from the early 70s. For our listeners, if you have a question about kombucha and you'd like to talk to our kombucha mama, Hannah Crump, give us a call at 1-877-342-6673. Hannah, I'm curious. I know you've probably done more research than most people, most of us kombucha brewers. Do you have any idea approximately when people started brewing kombucha tea here in America? I mean, it's an ancient drink, but when did Americans discover kombucha?
That's a great question. I don't have documents per se to back this up, but my suspicion is that it kind of crept its way into the hippie counterculture in the 60s. It was something that was kind of an underground thing. They're fantastic. I really think San Francisco is where it came to the U.S. It snuck in through that way, and it was something that was enjoyed kind of as a counterculture type beverage. And then in the 80s is when we first start hearing about it in articles and things. And, famously, Ronald Reagan drank kombucha. There's several celebrities who, around the 80s, were claiming
President Reagan drank kombucha?
Yeah, to help with his cancer.
Wow, I didn't know that.
So,
huh.
yeah, there's so there were quite a few, people are looking for a healing benefit, and why not try the Russian tea? Maybe he got his culture from Russia.
Maybe. Yeah. Huh.
But in the 80s is when we start to see it appearing, and then really the year that puts kombucha on the map is 95. 95 is the year, this is a little of our kombucha story, 95 is the year in which Betsy Pryor, who was a kind of kombucha mama of her time, of the late 90s, she received the culture and started sharing it with everyone in her neighborhood here in Los Angeles. Well, she happened to also share it with G.T. Dave's mother, who was very much into health food and chia seeds and all that kind of stuff. And G.T. Dave, for people who don't know, is the founder of G.T.'s Kombucha. It's the major brand of kombucha that's on every Whole Foods shelf.
It's all over the country, too.
Exactly right. Well, she had been brewing kombucha for a little while and ended up being diagnosed with a tumor in her, a tumor that had metastasized, and she attributed that to having drunk the kombucha. She did go through with the chemotherapy, and she drank kombucha through her entire process. And GT, at 16 years old, witnessed his mother going through this and saw how the kombucha really helped her. And that was what inspired him to start his company. So in 95, at 16, he started GT's Kombucha, which is literally the entire commercial kombucha industry got its genesis there. And that's to say every single company that exists started as a home brewer. So if you're a home brewer out there and you want to start sharing it with your broader community, there might be an opportunity there for you. As we said earlier,
it was something
people
that I thought it was something that I thought about a little bit, and I did some research on it, and I concluded rather quickly that I had to make a lot of booch to make this a viable enterprise. I think I'm just going to make it for myself or for us, and let it go at that, and maybe start a radio program instead.
But
you mentioned something. That's right. We all have our niche in the grid. But you mentioned something a few segments ago that was a critical part in kombucha being accepted in our house, and it's the fact that it's a wonderful substitute for soda pop. Now, I've been off the soda pop stuff for a long, long time, and over the last 10 years or so, maybe about once a year, I'd take a little bit of a sip of Coca-Cola. And I'm telling you, folks, if you get away from that for a long time, then you have a little sip, you'll be astonished at how sweet that stuff is. It's just amazing when you're away from it and you have a little bit. I find for me it's awful. I don't like it at all. But Karen liked it. She liked her soda pop. She likes the fizzy stuff. And when I was researching the kombucha, one of the things I learned pretty early on was that after you brew your kombucha, you can start to have fun with flavoring your kombucha. And really, the sky's the limit, folks, when it comes to how you flavor your kombucha. It can be as simple as dropping apple slices or orange slices or grapes or strawberries or blueberries or fruit. But a neat thing happens. You put the kombucha into your bottles, put a little bit of fruit in there of your choice, put the caps back on, and in about 3 or 4 days, it goes through a second fermentation. And what you get is a fizzy kombucha, sometimes very fizzy. I've done some stuff with some especially sweet slices of orange, and you better open that over the sink because it's going to be going all over the place. And there are times when it comes out, well, kind of like beer or champagne. And once we started making the flavor kombucha, well, that was the end of the soda pop in my house, and it was a perfect substitute for Karen. Gave her a nice, sweetie little drink, a nice little fizz to it. Don't need the soda pop anymore.
Absolutely couldn't agree more. And I think, part of the whole soda pop and the refined sugar that's in our diet is we get so used to that flavor that we don't even realize how sweet it is, and we kind of lose our ability to distinguish how much sugar we're actually consuming. And so one of the benefits I received, and anyone on their own kombucha journey will find they have different reactions, but one of the benefits I received was that I was able to really taste my food. And that's a blessing and a curse, because what you taste in a lot of processed foods is a lot of chemicals, a lot of sugars, a lot of weird stuff. But that allowed my organism to then make different choices. You know, when I started kombucha, I was a very typical American soda pop and pizza and all that kind of stuff. And just over time, through consuming the kombucha, my body has shifted and made different choices. So now it's not just the kombucha, it's the raw milk, it's the grass-fed beef, it's, you know, the organic foods. And again, it's thinking about quality rather than quantity. But you are absolutely right in that any flavoring you put into the kombucha becomes this delivery system for herbal nutrition, because it's such a powerful detoxifier. So not only does it detoxify your body, but it literally sucks all the good stuff, the flavonoids, the antioxidants, the whatever is present in your flavoring agent, even the color, right? It shifts the color of your kombucha. All of that is naturally just pulled from whatever you're using to flavor it with. And you're totally right about that carbonation. That comes from that anaerobic process. So when we put our cap on, we've removed the oxygen, the yeast gets to work converting that sugar, and that's what creates our CO2. And I just opened that bottle of Rise and Shine. It was literally like champagne, just flying forth. I had to hold my cup underneath and try to catch, so I didn't waste too much of it.
We're going to zip into a break in a few seconds. You're listening to Far Out Radio with Scott Teeters on the Rense Radio Network. And we're back, and that lovely little piece of music is El Solo Toro, otherwise known as The Lonely Bull by Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass from 1962. We're rolling into our last segment, Hannah. I told you, it goes by fast. A couple of things I want to hit on in the time we have left. To reflect back on what we were talking about right before the break, the fun part about one of the many fun things about kombucha is the almost infinite number of ways that you can flavor it, and every time is kind of an experiment. And I found that I needed to keep notes about what I put in, how many slices, how many berries, and all that kind of stuff. And because I was always getting different stuff, and it really, really makes it a lot of fun. I'll bet a lot of kids like this, too. You get stories like that from moms who get their kids involved in making kombucha. It must be fun for them.
Absolutely. And then when they use the pH strips, it's like science class. So there's definitely a lot of fun with families making it at home.
Mm-hmm. It is fun. That's for sure. And I also want to share with our listeners that this kombucha brews very quickly. When I started making this last August, it was pretty warm here in New Jersey, and it was, I think it didn't get down below, in the house, much below at night, maybe 75 or so. And my kombucha was brewing to the point where it was done to taste in about 4 to 5 days. That's pretty good speed. And compared to brewing other things like beer and mead and wine, kombucha's like instant coffee. It's that fast. But Hannah, I have a question for you. I was telling a friend of mine about kombucha, and they asked me about the possibility of some alcohol content. And I said, well, there is a little tiny bit, and she sort of went off saying that, well, I'm a diabetic and I'm absolutely forbidden to have any kind of alcohol whatsoever, so that's not for me. What's your experience with the alcohol issue and kombucha?
Sure. There is a small amount of alcohol created in any fermentation process. It's a normal byproduct of the process, and it serves a couple of different functions. One is that it preserves the beverage. I mean, we often are adding alcohol to other foods to make them shelf stable or to preserve them and prevent mold and things like that. Also, it's a way in which we've delivered medicine for, since early times. Things that weren't soluble in water, we would put them into a solvent like alcohol, and those are our first cough syrups and things like that. So the amount of alcohol that's created by kombucha is in an unflavored, well-fermented kombucha, and by that I mean, a 14-day ferment, and that's where all the sugar's been converted, has anywhere between 0.3 up to 0.8% alcohol. So, and oftentimes it's about the same amount as you would find in an unpasteurized fruit juice. So, part of our misconception in alcohol is just very much from that prohibition kind of mentality. we very much have an all or nothing kind of perception. But in fact, even our bodies make alcohol. So alcohol is not something to be afraid of per se. Moreover, and I don't know if you've experienced any kombucha buzz. Every once in a while when I drink a glass of kombucha, I'll feel this really quick, like, ooh, and then it quickly goes away. But it's non-inebriating in that you could literally, physiologically never drink enough kombucha to actually get drunk. You could never be drunk on kombucha because your body metabolizes that small amount so quickly that you're not even able to feel those effects. So that's why it's a drink that mothers can give to their children, and people have enjoyed it in this way for a long time. So it's a great benefit. But that small amount of alcohol, and oftentimes if you consume like B vitamins, or people who get a B vitamin shot report that same type of feeling. So is it the alcohol? Is it the B vitamins? Is it just your body responding to nutrition in a form it can actually use, going, yay, this makes me feel good? Whatever it is, it also has a relaxing effect on the body as well. So I like to recommend people start with 4 to 8 ounces, so half a glass to a glass of kombucha first thing in the morning on an empty stomach, and just observe how that makes you feel. I oftentimes will have my glass of kombucha, and I'll dilute it with water. So if it's a little too sour for you first thing in the morning, you can add a splash of water. That shifts the pH. That's also a great way to serve it to folks who maybe, would find it a little too sour for their preference. I'll take that with me when I walk the dog. And within a couple of minutes, I can literally feel my intestines relax. Like you just feel this like, and that's part of what the root cause of most diseases is diet and stress. And we realize that those are the root causes. It makes a lot of sense why kombucha seemingly heals so many symptoms. It's because, these different diseases, these autoimmune diseases, a lot of these are reactions that our bodies are having to the toxins in our food, the toxins in our environment, the toxins in our water, the toxins in the air. I mean, they're all around us, right? So our bodies are having these reactions, and when we detoxify with kombucha, that's really its main function, is the gluconic acid binds to the heavy metals, and then your body flushes those out. When we're detoxifying, that heals many of those symptoms, whether that's eczema or IBS or any of these digestive issues that people experience. And being a liver detoxin specific is really powerful because our liver is a filter, essentially. It's the last organ through which we process things like intense alcohol, like a hard alcohol, or our pharmaceutical drugs or things like that. And so when we overtax the liver and it doesn't function properly, it also isn't able to make the serotonin and the dopamine that our body needs to feel good. But when we drink the kombucha and we detox and we allow the liver to function as it should, that helps to increase our mood. And that's why a lot of people just say, I just feel good from drinking kombucha. I don't know what it is. I just feel good. And that's really what it is again, it's this nutrition in a form our bodies can actually use. It's no
really
joke.
Amazing.
You are what you eat.
It's really an amazing thing because once you start to gently, and I emphasize gently, start to detox, there's a lot of detox products out there that sort of clean like a white tornado, and they're really quite harsh, and you really don't want to be detoxing too quickly. It's not a race. But when you start to gently detox and all this stuff starts to be naturally eliminated, then your body's natural immune system can function as it's supposed to function, and it will take care of things without even telling you about it. You won't even know you've had little problems. That's what your immune system's for. Hannah, we got about 2 minutes left, so tell our listeners some of the things that you offer on your website, because you got a lot of cool stuff on there for kombucha brewers.
Absolutely. Anyone who's new to kombucha or even experienced brewers, I highly recommend you go to kombuchacamp.com/kombucha recipe. You can sign up for your free DIY guide and recipe. There's loads of tips and hints, and like I said, even experienced brewers find information in there that helps them move their process forward. From there, use our Google search bar and type in a flavor or type in a specific health benefit you're looking for, and you'll find a whole host of articles talking about those topics. In our store specifically, we have cultures. We have all of our cultures are raised in organic and sugar. All of our ingredients, the teas that we sell, I make my own Hannah Special Tea Blend. It's 100% organic because we're really committed to, if we're consuming this beverage to detox, then we want to have the best ingredients possible. And that's what I really want to stress to everybody is that you can buy a bottle of commercial kombucha and try to grow a culture, and we have an article about why that's not recommended anymore, but it's only going to cost you $25 for a quality culture that's going to brew up fast, as you already experienced, and give you, successive batch after batch and SCOBY after SCOBY of healthy cultures, then it's totally worth the investment because, again, you get that lifetime supply out of those quality ingredients. And so we've got continuous brewers. We have supplies for people who have their own vessels. We have flavorings. We even invented some of our own products. We have these heat strips and warming belts for people who live in colder climates.
The one I got from you is excellent. It really does a great job because it gets cold. It's really cold here right now, and at nighttime, we turn the heat way down, and it can be 58 degrees, and my SCOBY gets cold, and it doesn't like that.
Exactly right. They really like that 75 to 85 degree temp. Then, because we're not going to heat the house that warm all winter long, having the heating valve works great. Plus, it works with other ferments. So if you're fermenting kefir grains or anything like that, you can also use these supplies for that. But we're passionate about kombucha. We're passionate about sharing that information. And our philosophy is really learn the rules. Learn the rules so that then you can go and break them. But first you have to learn the rules. You have to learn the principles. Why does it work? Why is it this way? Once you do that, once you make your tea and sugar kombucha, and then you have some extra cultures, now you can go on and you can do one with yerba mate or do one with peppermint tea or, try a different type of sugar source or something like that. Kombucha, as you said, is flexible. It's fun. It's experimental. And we can get really creative with it.
It certainly stoked my interest. It really stoked my interest in fermented foods in general. And gosh, we're just about out of time. We'd like to have you back again another time. We can talk about other kinds of fermented foods that are just really easy to make, and they're so health beneficial that there's really no reason to not do them. So we'd like to get you back again sometime soon. Okay, Hannah?
Absolutely.
Good.
That would be great.
Good.
Diversity is key. So.
Indeed. And there's our music. That means we gotta say our good night here. So we'll be talking to you soon, Hannah. And to our listeners, stop by Hannah's website, kombuchacamp.com, for all things kombucha. Or you can just type into a search engine, Kombucha Mama, and you'll find Hannah's fine site right up there at the top of the search engine. Tomorrow night we're going out on the skinny branches in the far out zone, and we're going to be talking with author and researcher Tim Schwartz, who's about a man who is arguably one of the most brilliant men of the 20th century. No, we're not talking about Albert Einstein. We'll be talking about the master of lightning, Nikola Tesla. This is going to be a very interesting program, so stop by tomorrow night. Thanks for joining us. I appreciate it, and we'll be back with you tomorrow. Take care. Good night, everyone. And greetings from the cold Pine Barrens of southern New Jersey. Welcome to Far Out Radio with Scott Teeters. I'm Scott, and today is Tuesday, January the 22nd, 2013. It was a beautiful day here in the Pines. It was sunny with azure blue skies, puffy clouds, a good breeze, and the temperature never got over 14. We like to say here in New Jersey, if you can live here, you can live anywhere, because we get it all here. Lucky us. Our topic tonight is an amazing health drink that is fall off a log simple and inexpensive to make. It's called kombucha. Our guest is author and educator Hannah Crum. Hannah goes by the nickname of the Kombucha Mama. I just love that. And she's with us tonight to talk about all things kombucha. Before we bring Hannah on, we want to let our listeners know that we're going to open up the phone lines after the first break. So if you'd like to ask Hannah a question about kombucha, give us a call at 1-877-342-6673. Again, that number is 1-877-342-6673. I discovered kombucha in June of 2012, late one night while I was poking about the health section at Rents.com. I found an article that was titled, "Is Kombucha a Health Drink?" Now, I've been into health and diet-related issues for a long, long time, and when I saw the article, I said, kombucha? What is that? Well, the article went on to explain that kombucha is a fermented sweet tea, and in the fermentation process, it creates probiotics. Well, since my wife has had long-term digestive issues, this certainly had my attention. So we bought a few bottles of store-bought kombucha tea, and I told Karen that if she likes the drink, I've read and heard that it's very, very easy to make, and if it agrees with her, I'll start to make it for her. So after some quick online research, I found Hannah Crumb's website, and by early August, we had our first batch of kombucha, and we've been booching ever since. Hannah's website is fun. It's called kombuchacamp.com. Let me spell that out for you because it's a little bit unusual. It's Kombucha Camp, Kombucha Camp, K-A-M-P. That's kombuchacamp.com. The site is loaded with how-to articles, recipes, videos, plus Hannah sells everything you need to successfully brew your own kombucha tea. So again, before we bring Hannah on, we want to let the listeners know if you'd like to call us up and ask Hannah a question about kombucha, give us a call at 1-877-342-6673. So Hannah, are you there? Welcome to the program.
Hi, Scott. Thanks for having me on tonight.
Oh, you're quite welcome. Do you have a tall, cold glass of kombucha there with you?
You know I do. Tonight it's Rise and Shine. This is a new flavor I've been doing because the cold season. It's turmeric, ginger, and bee pollen.
Ooh. I hadn't thought about putting turmeric in my...
Well, it's very anti-inflammatory because both the ginger and turmeric are anti-inflammatory, and then the bee pollen has just a little extra zip to it. It's got kind of a citrusy flavor.
Huh. Wow. Well, we're going to get into the flavoring of kombucha and all that fun stuff. Hannah, let's start at the beginning for you. How did you find kombucha, or how did kombucha find you?
I think the second way you asked that is exactly right. Kombucha found me. I had never heard of kombucha. If you'd asked me when I was a kid, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? I never would have said the kombucha mama because I had no idea what it was. But I was visiting some friends from college in San Francisco and got a nice tour of their apartment. And one of the stops on the tour in their place was this box filled with mysterious jars all covered with cloth covers. And I was like, what is that? I said, that's kombucha. And I had never heard the word. Like you, I did the same, kombu what? And was very intrigued by it. So when I returned to Los Angeles, I went to the store and grabbed a bottle. And for me, it was love at first sip. Now, I have a true confession. I was the sort of girl who would sneak the pickle juice out of the pickle jar when Mom wasn't looking, and if she ever caught me, she'd yell at me. So I think I already had a predilection to these
drinking pickle juice, huh?
caught with my hand in the pickle jar. So I think I always liked kind of that sour, bitter type flavor. So for me, I really loved it, and I felt great. You know, I heard your story, and you mentioned your wife had digestive issues. I didn't have a specific health concern that I was addressing, but I definitely feel that consuming kombucha over time has certainly improved my health in many ways, and it really resonated with me and vibrated with me. And I just was making it at home, made it for a long time. My husband didn't even really care for it until I got better at it and made a flavor he liked. But it just kind of grew from there. I was really, you know, part of what it was is I was frustrated by the lack of great information out there about it. You do kind of a cursory search for kombucha. You find the Mayo Clinic or, you know, some of these other sites where they're like, oh, we don't know about this stuff, don't trust it. That to me was a little frustrating. So that's why I wanted to put good quality information out there. And like you said, the site is full of articles and tips. You have a great recipe you can download, and